Oh, I've been attacked at countless events.
Have you really? Physically attacked?
Yeah. Hot coffee dumped on me outside of a school board meeting. I've had knives pulled on me. I've been sucker punched in crowds. I've been all sorts of stuff. They kind of swarmed my brother, and a knife still came over the crowd and just got him above the eye. And he started pouring blood. They grabbed the guy that cut Nick. They have them both side by side holding them. They arrest my brother and they throw the guy back in the crowd. Like, that was obviously a severe human rights violation. And that's when I returned to class. I told my lawyers, I told everybody, by complying with this unlawful order, I'll be condoning it. I've done nothing wrong. I've quoted scripture. If that makes me such a danger that you have to put me in cuffs and take me off to the jailhouse, do it.
Mr. Josh Alexander, at 16 years old, was originally suspended from St. Joseph's Catholic High School in Renfrew, Ontario, just near here, following a classroom discussion on gender identity, where he said, God created only males and females. I attempted to contact Josh on Twitter a year ago, but he was busy, to say the least. I wanted to support his free speech efforts. Well, he wrote back to me a couple of weeks ago, and now we're here today. Hi, Josh. Welcome to my podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Oh, I'm very excited to talk to you. It's been, just about a year since you were suspended from school. Yeah,
it would have been the classroom discussions that would have got me kicked out would have been happening about like a year ago from now. And then it was November that I got actually kicked out and haven't been allowed to return since.
And so it wasn't just the classroom discussions that got you suspended though, was it? Or
Well, so it was a combination of things. I was new to the school, but I had a bit of a reputation after the Freedom Convoy and whatnot because I had led student walkouts in solidarity with the truckers, and that spread all across the country. But anyways, I was getting suspended so many times just for doing that that I decided to leave that board and go into the Catholic board.
I see.
And some female students approached me and they were concerned about males in their washrooms and stuff, and they figured I might be willing to say something considering my past activism, and I did. I felt an obligation to say something, and I spoke up about it. I had multiple conversations with the principal. It became a controversial issue really quick, and it was turning into like shouting classroom debates and all that with my teacher furious with me and all that. But at the end of the day, they refused to take any action, and we had to do a protest outside the school. And just 2 days before the scheduled date of the protest, I was suspended for remarks made in the classroom, apparently.
Did they go ahead with the protest?
Oh, yeah, we went ahead with it. I wasn't allowed on the school property. It was like 10 meters away. And they told anybody that joined me they'd have their transportation revoked, so they wouldn't be allowed to get on the bus. Apparently, some students were told they'd be kicked off their sports teams. It would ruin their reputations, apparently. But it certainly it limited the amount of students that showed up. But we still got a lot of support from the Valley, and then we also had about maybe 200 counter-protesters show up.
What kind of counter-protesters?
Well, we had unions and just
school
the
union?
pride. The school unions were there. The CPAC was there. Apparently, people were being bussed up from major cities all over the place.
They're pretty organized.
Yeah. So that was one of the biggest crowds Renfrew seen, I'm sure.
So you said that it spawned other protests across the country. What exactly do you mean by that? In the schools, or
So. After I got kicked out, there started to be other students that would maybe say a few things, but none of them quite got the punishment I got. However, later on in the year, Liberty Coalition Canada organized a I Stand with Josh Alexander event, and this was while I had still been kicked out of school for months. So we had schools from all over Canada, some in the US, even some in Germany and stuff, walking out. So that was pretty cool to see. And obviously, more recently, we've seen protests, mass protests all across the country over this issue. And it's nice to see that I'm no longer one student speaking my views and then being kicked out and punished and disciplined for it.
Right. I went to City Hall. No, I went to the legislature. That's where it was, in downtown Toronto.
Okay, nice.
That was the March for Millions.
Yeah, I was at the one in Ottawa leading that march, and we had Jagmeet Singh and whatnot come out to counter-protest us.
Yeah,
and
counter-protest.
Yeah.
Who was he walking with?
He was with all the unions and the pride communities and all that. But
did he say anything to you?
It was too loud a crowd to tell what he was saying, but he was mouthing words at me, and he was he's making eye contact with me and hand gestures and all sorts of stuff. He was not happy.
What's this?
Well, I guess it was just supposed to be, I don't know, some sort of intimidation, but it wasn't very intimidating. But that was, we had politicians on both ends come out to that, and it was a big event. It was the biggest march I've ever led.
So Jagmeet Singh was there. What other politician was there?
There was a couple MPs. I forget their names. And then there was a few provincial MPs, and we also had Maxime Bernier from the People's Party came out on our side. But yeah, there was...
Maxime Bernier comes out to a lot of these events, like most of them, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's very supportive.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see, especially after that Million Man March, we're going to see more politicians coming out in support of these issues.
Well, I should hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was downtown. I was there pretty early, but it grew, and they had there were a lot of signs that were up, and on the backs of the signs were Maxime Bernier's advertisements.
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
They were saying, "Oh, maybe you should put those signs down," but they were already up. So that's what happened.
Yeah, we did an event in Scarborough as well at the Victoria Park Collegiate Institute, and the Maxime came out to that one as well, and there was all these kids holding up the "Leave the Kids Alone" signs. The kids that had come out from the school, but on the back of them was the PPC logo, so the shots from behind just looked like it was a PPC rally.
Yeah, it's very funny. I thought, that was really smart.
Yeah, it was a good marketing strategy.
So what do your parents think of what's going on with you? And your brother? You have a brother as well?
Yeah.
Do you have any other siblings?
Yeah, I do. I have a younger brother and a older sister. My family's supportive of what I'm doing. They've obviously also paid a price for it. My parents were teachers in the board that I previously attended, the public board, and they've both been placed on leave and told they'll be fired if they don't basically support.
How did they manage? That's not easy to fire a teacher. How did they manage to fire a teacher? 2 teachers.
That's an excellent question. I guess at this point it's just a long drawn out process of them being put on leave, and there being some negotiation with the union. However, the union has already organized.
Would they say you're Josh Alexander's mum? You can't teach anymore? Or how did that come about?
They wouldn't obviously say that, but both my parents passed their evaluations with flying colors this year.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks apart from each other, they both get canned. So. It's a little bit suspicious, but the issue, there was nothing on my dad, but what they did do to my mom was, she was a kindergarten teacher, and before she came in school one day, they posted a pride flag on her kindergarten classroom door. Now, teachers are allowed to decorate their doors in their classrooms however they please, and she didn't want that there, so she took it off. Anyways, the same day, the superintendent drives down, meets with her, tells her she's a danger to the students, and removes her from the class. And so now it's just a battle between the union and the board, but the union has already, they've made it clear that they don't support us. They actually put out emails to their entire union naming me, telling them to go protest Josh Alexander.
Oh, yeah.
So much for that.
Yeah. It's an activist union.
And that's what we're seeing. We had, 190 unions come out against the Million Man March. It's ridiculous. It's just corruption.
It certainly looks that way. And, they have been very good at organizing themselves. They're a union, so that is what they're good at. And so, but they've taken this in a direction that is questionable.
Yeah.
So what gives you the courage to do all of this?
Well, I would say that one, being a born again Christian, it gives
Why
me
do you
strength.
call yourself born again?
Well, I mean, in the scripture, we're dead to our sin. Jesus Christ paid the price on the cross, and I have a new life, one with a lot more meaning, a lot more purpose.
Now, do you think is that a conscious decision, or was that when you were a baby?
No, that was a conscious decision. Now, it's interesting. A lot of the media report that I'm a Catholic, but I was at a Catholic school, but I'm not actually a Catholic. I wouldn't actually categorize myself in any denomination, but I'm just an evangelical Christian. But I mean, I made the decision on my own. Obviously, I was raised in a Christian family, and I'm very thankful for that. But as I've grown older, I'm looking into it for myself. I'm studying constantly, and I'm wanting to learn more and grow closer to Jesus.
What do you do to study?
Well, I'm constantly in the Word. We do Bible studies. I just spent the summer down in Georgia, and it was really challenging. We had just a bunch of men. We'd go, and it was actually cool. We'd call it Iron Church, and we'd go to the gym, and we'd do a Bible study while working out at the same time, and edifying the mind and body. So that was fun. But
we stayed in Europe at a monastery called Heldenkreis.
Okay.
They had a nice gym in their 11th century monastery.
For real?
Yeah, for real. In the basement of one of the building, or one of the rooms in the basement was a weightlifting gym.
Nice.
Yeah, and they go and they work out. You have to keep yourself sharp.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the most important things. Of course, it's now the radical left is even after that now.
No way. In what way?
Well, they say that if you work out to improve your body, you're fat phobic.
Oh yeah, right. Of course.
So, I mean, I think it's very important for your mental strength and also for your physical strength and your health. It helps both mind and body, and I think it's a very important part of someone's life, especially a young man.
Yeah, no, I think that the modern idea of strengthening your body and exercising. I mean, historically, men have been very strong and working, and women too, working on farms. And so it was always part of our life. It's just actually modern people who have become more sedentary. And so then you have to make a conscious effort to exercise. There's nothing wrong with that.
Our whole lifestyle is made everything a luxury and everything as easy and as easy as possible. So we've taken out all the struggle and all the hardship, and we've just become numb to it. Yeah. And so now you actually have to make a conscious decision and schedule time to just go do hard things when really that was life in the past.
Yeah, right, exactly. You know, a lot of the weightlifting exercises are to do them as you are, so lifting a weight and carrying it and walking as you would if you were heaving bales or, doing something on the farm. And so we're just trying to bring back that. I think I'm a massage therapist. I was a massage therapist for years. And I think, we don't ride horses anymore. So we don't have any strength in our legs the way we used to hold on to a horse. All of those muscles have nothing to do now because all you do is stand on a gas pedal and a brake, and so that's not going to make you very strong.
Yeah, it's true. We've adapted, and it's it's similar to the story about the fruit fly. If you put it in an enclosure, it will only be able to jump as high as that enclosure, even if you take the lid out. But otherwise, a free fruit fly will just fly wherever it wants to.
Oh, that's fascinating, isn't it?
And that's literally humanity in the modern day.
And that's, we tell people that we want to put them in safe spaces and that we don't want to offend anybody. Yeah. You don't want to offend anybody at school, or you get kicked out of school if you offend anybody. But being able to listen to what comes to you, whether it's offensive or not, and being able to sit with it before you respond, that's a sign of growth and maturity. And we're not allowing our children to learn from adversity. I mean, they kicked you out of school for standing up and pushing back.
Yeah.
Right? How dare you push back?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous how much we've censored our generation, but just like society in general. And it's a fake sense of security. And it's like you have everybody getting offended for the other person.
Yeah.
And it just creates chaos, as we're seeing throughout the entire world.
Yeah, that's for sure. So what do you find yourself doing? You said you're very busy and you're going here and there.
Yeah, since I've been kicked out of school, I've been learning a whole lot more than I was there.
Fancy that.
But I've just been doing, I'll do public speaking engagements, a lot of podcasts, and I speak at a lot of churches. And then I also run the Safe Canada organization, and that's
What's
where
that?
we it's
on your hat. On your hat. But what is it?
It's our youth run organization.
Where do we get hats?
You can get them at safecanada.shop.
Okay.
But we really formed during the Freedom Convoy. Anyways, it's adapted, and it kind of got put to rest for a little bit, but I always just wore the hat. That was the hat I had worn since, I don't know, grade 9 or something, and I wore it every day. And then when the photo of me getting arrested in it came out again, so that kind of lit the torch again, and we've been showing up at schools all across the country and rallying students and trying to give them the truth. And
how is your reception when you go into these schools? What's it like?
So far it's been really positive from the students. Not all the students will agree with us, but they're usually open to discussion because I guess they respect that we've actually come across the country to talk to them, and we're respectful and we're polite regardless of the crowd of counter-protesters shouting at us or attacking us in some circumstances. And
attacking you? When have you been attacked?
Oh, I've been attacked at countless events.
Have you really? Physically attacked?
Yeah. Like I remember, I've had hot coffee dumped on me outside of a school board meeting. I've had knives pulled on me. I've been sucker punched in crowds. I've been all sorts of stuff.
So do you have people with you to kind of take the brunt of it?
No, not usually. Like me, my brother Nick, and my good friend Monty Walker, we kind of travel as a crew. We've all gotten the brunt of it, and it's just something you have to accept. There's a lot of people that would like to call us hateful, but then go out of their way to cause bodily harm to us.
So what kind of things are you telling the people when you get there?
Yeah, sure. So we will, usually what I do is I show up to a school. I'll probably announce it maybe a week before I show up, just to get the students talking about it and ready to come out. And we'll just show up on a sidewalk, and we usually have a cart full of Bibles, it's kind of a strange form of gathering, but the way I see it is these kids have been in the false education systems their entire lives. They're being indoctrinated. They're being told falsehoods constantly, and I just want to, for maybe 1 hour, give them the truth and leave them with the eternal truth, which is the Word of God. So that's what we do, and we will witness and pray with anybody we can. And we've had a lot of positive responses from students, and then we've also been arrested sometimes while doing it. Just because
arrested but not held.
Yeah, well, yeah, not usually because we're innocent. But
why
do
they arrest you? Do you think?
Well, I think it goes far above the police force. I think that it's a decision made by whatever powers that are watching, and they recognize that it is a problem to them to see that young people are being rallied behind the truth.
Yeah,
they've built this foundation of falsehood, and that's what they want. That's what they want everybody to believe in. And when they see youth excited about it, and they want to shut that down. They want to make an example out of us. So if they can arrest us, they'll do that, and they'll make as big a scene as possible.
So what do you do when you're arrested? Do you have a plan?
No. I'm usually I don't plan to get arrested. It just happens, and then I've been arrested once at the National Arts Center in Ottawa. And that was in February. Once at my high school. And that was, they pulled me right out of class and arrested me.
And why did they pull you out of class and arrest you?
So, yeah, that was, I guess we skipped over that part.
That was the first time you were arrested? Was
yeah,
that time?
That was my first arrest ever.
That would have been a shocking one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so basically, they kicked me out of school. They told me I'd be allowed back if I followed certain conditions. The conditions meant that I couldn't attend a math class or religion class. I was banned from those.
Oh, yeah.
And
math class and religion class.
Yeah, it was strange, but those were their conditions. They said that there were students in those classes that didn't feel comfortable in my presence.
I see.
So like usual, to comfort the woke, they pulled me out of class and disciplined me. But anyways, I told them I wasn't going to comply with those conditions. I had lawyers involved at this point. I told them all I've done is speak the truth. I quoted Mark 10:6, and that was the verse that really got me in a lot of trouble. But yeah, I told them I'm going to return to class.
What's Mark 10:6?
God created them male and female.
Yeah.
And I used that in an argument while I was being shouted at by my teacher and a whole pile of students. But apparently because there was a student who identified differently in that class, that was considered bullying. So anyways, I've been kicked out of school, not even under disciplinary measures at this point. It is discipline, but they can't admit that because that would look really bad on the legal side. So what they've done is they said that they don't feel I will comply with the principal's instructions. And so they're going to exclude me for the rest of the school's safety. And it's not disciplinary. It's just because they have concerns.
You have a different principal now, though, at school, right?
Yeah. No.
So have things changed at all?
No, they promoted the principal who originally shouted at me and
I see.
All that, but they promoted him. They brought in a new principal who was maybe even more dishonest in their dealings with me. I had a meeting with them just this past summer, and they were telling me that that they were concerned about a video of me shooting firearms while I was in Georgia.
Yeah, you know, where I grew up in Alberta, everybody has a rifle in the back of their car or in the back of their truck, right? Yeah. Everybody has one.
But so yeah, they were concerned about that. They were concerned about the song "Try That in a Small Town" by Jason Aldean. I posted that when it was being canceled, and
when it was being canceled.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And
and why was it being canceled? Because it was triggered people.
Yeah, it triggered a lot of people because it's about defending small town traditional values.
Yeah, right. And good Lord, don't do that.
Yeah, never. So they wanted to. They questioned me about that. They started asking me to define the lyrics of that song and trying to trap me into saying something. And
they asked you what a weak man was.
Yes,
I thought that was funny.
That was the best part.
What did you say?
Yeah, so because my tweet. It had the Jason Aldean song. We were doing some firearms training, and it said something to the effect of weak men create hard times. Because of the multitude of weak men in our society, hard times are inevitable. Prepare accordingly. It wasn't that deep a post. It was fairly obvious. Just look at what's happening throughout the whole world right now.
Yeah.
I want to be capable of protecting. I want to be a dangerous man. But regardless, they took that and they started questioning me and playing with the words and trying to get me to say something incriminating. But they asked me, they said, "So what do you consider a weak man?" And I responded, I said, "Well, your former principal was an excellent example." And they said, "Oh, so you think people in the board are weak?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Give us a few other examples." And I just simply said, "Any man who refuses to stand up for a teenage girl's security, privacy, and safety is a weak man." And I said, the RCC DSB has a multitude of them. So
that's the Renfrew County Catholic School Board. Yeah.
And so that was kind of how the meeting ended up closing. But
good closing. Good closure.
They kicked me out for a year after that. Oh. So. But that's so that was the new principal asking all those questions. They also wanted to know whether I'd comply with another mask mandate.
That came out of left field, I guess.
I asked them, I said, "How many other students have you asked that question?"
Yeah.
But what I told them, I said, I don't know what the future holds, but what I can tell you is, as a Christian, I'm not going to go along with a lie. What we saw in the past was a global lie. And if it's anything similar to that, no, I won't comply with it. So that's where that was left at. And so I haven't been allowed back to school for 10 months now, and now I won't be allowed back for the rest of the 2024 year and maybe even longer.
Oh, so you're done with school then?
Yeah, I guess so, because I'm supposed to be graduating this year.
Yeah.
But I only have a grade 10. Now, have they
put anything in place for you? A teacher that would, because when my daughter was ill, she had health issues that she couldn't go to school in grade 11, and they sent a teacher to our house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did they do that?
No, but so originally, like I was saying, before I got arrested, they offered me a private room in the school where I could sit isolated, away from everybody and do my work privately. I said no. And that was obviously a severe human rights violation. And that's when I returned to class. I told, all the students were watching, and I told them, I told my lawyers, I told everybody, by complying with this unlawful order, I'll be condoning it. I've done nothing wrong. I've quoted scripture. If that makes me such a danger that you have to put me in cuffs and take me off to the jailhouse, do it. So I returned to class, and that's what happened. They arrested me. So that was why I got arrested at my school.
Are there police in the school?
No,
normally?
No, they were, but they were parked outside waiting for me.
Oh, they were.
So I just
They're getting
walked
to know
in.
you by then.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the school called them in beforehand because it was the beginning of a new semester. It was all new classes. Everybody's returning to school after it was a long weekend. So I guess they kind of expected that I might return. So I did. I walked right in. I sat in my class, and sure enough, they pulled me out and arrested me. But they kind of made an offer there to give me an isolated room to learn, which I declined. And then the other option was online learning, which, I mean, I could do. But if I was going to do that, I'd just pull out and do some sort of independent learning plan, get my GED like that. So there's multiple options to do that. But the fact of the matter is, for the same reason that I did go in and violated their exclusion order and took the arrest that day, is because I feel like I need to fight this. There's this is setting precedent for students all across the country. Right. Right now I'm fighting in court, and I want to settle for nothing less than in-class learning, free of discrimination. And that's something they failed on over and over and over. And
so are you in court now?
Yes. I did win my first case, which was my case that gave me the ability to just bring it before the school board. They weren't even going to hear my case before on a technicality, so that took forever. But I had to withdraw from parental control and everything. But I won that case.
How do you withdraw from parental control?
I had to sign affidavits, and it went to the Ontario Superior Court, and they determined whether I was emancipated, basically, and
I see.
That's what happened. And so now the school's forced to hear my case, and that'll be at the beginning of November. So
that's coming up.
Yeah, and so there'll be a lot of stuff in there. There'll be multiple suspensions, the exclusions. I think the trespassing notice will be brought into that. The recent exclusion for over a year now. So all of that will be tied into one case, and I don't know how long it'll take, but that's coming up very soon. And then we're also in the Human Rights Tribunal right now. And so that should be, I don't know, actually, that'll take a long time to actually get wrapped up.
Now, why are you in the Human Rights Tribunal? So
we're making a challenge based on religious discrimination. And we have a very strong case on that. I told them how it's a Catholic school. We can even bring in their school board policy, which is they say in their own website that they hold the Word of God as the supreme text.
Right.
So I offered them multiple times to debate the Word with me. I said, look, if you have an issue with what I've said in the scripture, let's open up the scripture. You're a Catholic school. They said they couldn't do that without popes and all sorts, not popes, but priests and
bishops.
Yeah, they wanted all sorts of people. They gave me a list of people that would need to be present. I said, okay, make it happen. And I gave them like 5 different dates I was available. They've refused. And that offer is still open. I'm happy to debate them. They've basically made it illegal for a student to quote certain scriptures in that school, and that's pretty shameful for a Catholic school.
Yes, absolutely. So how do you decide when you get up in the morning what you're going to do each day?
I kind of play it by ear, honestly. Things are moving so fast. I would have never expected life to move like this, and I don't think the public can quite imagine what it looks like either behind the scenes, because we never really know where it's going to happen. When a lot of the protests we do are like called the day before sometimes, because a student will reach out to us and we'll hear that, what do you know, the school's bringing in a transvestite or something to present to the kids.
Right.
And we want to be able to go and support other kids that are standing up and that we're in the same situation. Now, are these only high schools, or are these? We've gone to mainly high schools. I believe there was maybe one elementary that was involved with a high school protest, but most of what we do is based on issues that are happening in high schools.
How do they get a hold of you? If students, how do they get a hold of you?
Most of them message me at my Instagram.
I see.
Or my Twitter, and they just tell me that they're concerned about what's happening, and they give me their case and I guess a bit of a resume, which is usually like 1 paragraph, and we make a decision and just get down to that school as fast as possible, and
the 3 of
support
you.
them. Yeah. And sometimes we bring an even bigger crew than that. We've got a lot of people on standby, but it's definitely the 3 of us.
And you go down there for the day?
Usually a couple hours.
Hours.
We'll show up at the school. I'll contact the police if I'm able and warn them that's happening. A counter-protest will usually come out. And I try to have one-on-one discussions with the students. We don't need a big crowd of people out there to support us. I wanted to be able to talk to them and encourage them, because I've been in that boat. I know what it's like, and I want to show other people.
Have you been in contact afterwards with any of these people?
Yes. Yeah. And I know that some of them have even gotten suspended after I show up, or I know that my hat is banned in a lot of the schools, and we give out hats at our events, and students get suspended all the time for that. My little brother, 14 years old, on his first year in high school, just got suspended for wearing my hat. The day after, my brother got all bloodied at the Scarborough event, so he wore it in support of my older brother, and they suspended him too. So
has your brother recovered from his?
Oh, pretty good.
What happened to him?
So there was a blade. We were at the September 22nd event, myself and Chris Elston did, Billboard Chris, and we held this rally in Scarborough outside of a couple different high schools. Union supported violent protests showed up like usual, and anyways, they kind of cornered my brother Nick and a veteran who we call Wild Bill, and they had an umbrella that they snapped in half, and it had put a pointed end on it, and they just kept stabbing the veteran in the hand with it. So he was bloodied too, but it was all in the hand. And then they kind of swarmed my brother, and he dodged out of the way just in time, but a knife still came over the crowd and just got him above the eye, and he started pouring blood.
A knife?
We were trying to tell whether there was bladed gloves in that crowd, and then there was also knives.
What's a bladed glove?
It's just it's a glove with blades built into the fingers and the knuckles and on the thumb, and
so blades that stick out on the outside to fight with.
Yeah, and the cops were able to see these as well.
Yeah. Why do you think the cops didn't stop them when he saw those? Because those are weapons.
I think the cops are, 1, they're probably under order sometimes. 2, they're also afraid of that crowd. They know that they can arrest one of us and we're not going to put up a fight.
Yeah, I've heard that's what they'll do. They'll they will respond to the most available person.
Yeah.
To break it up.
Yeah. And they've done that to us many times. But the weird part is, like, when Nick got, they grabbed the guy that cut Nick, and they had him in custody. They have them both side by side holding them. They arrest my brother, and they throw the guy back in the crowd.
Wow.
And we have that on camera.
I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And because, like, you can only imagine what those cops who are cornered, they're in the same spot that Nick and the veteran are in. Let's say they do arrest that guy. That whole violent crowd of union-supported protesters could do anything to those cops. And then at the same time, they know that they'll just make the violent crowd happy if Nick gets arrested. So that's what they did. And now the weird part is they were supposed to have 100 public order officers on standby. I was told that, and I'd been communicating with the police for 2 months before that event to make sure everything went smoothly. But they still didn't respond. They would have had the numbers to do it. It wasn't that big a crowd of counter protesters. It's probably less than 100, but they just didn't act on it.
Yeah, well, the police haven't been supported well, and maybe now their actions are changing because of that, which is disappointing.
Yeah, for sure. And it's weird because I remember I got in grade 9 during all the violent BLM riots where cops were being killed in the States and stuff. I'm an American, and I saw that happening, and I was wearing a thin blue line shirt, back the blue. And I was getting called a racist and all this. And, I mean, I took flack for it, but at the same time, I respect law enforcement, and what was happening then was very wrong. But there weren't many other kids that would actually support the police. And it's funny who they've chosen to arrest multiple times on mainstream cameras. It's disappointing, to say the least.
So that's partly where you got your beginning then, was in grade 9 in the States. Where were you in the States?
Or I wasn't, I was in Canada when that happened. I used to live in Arizona, right. And I'm an American citizen, but all my education was happening in Canada.
Are all your siblings American too?
They're all Americans as well.
Your mom and dad American too?
I believe my mom is and my dad isn't.
I see.
But they.
Do you guys plan to stay in Canada, do you think?
That's a question I wrestle with. Yeah, I don't know. I do believe there is a fight to be had in Canada.
Yeah.
And I love Canada and I love the States. And right now I have something going on, and I do believe that what we're doing is important right now. And we are effectively reaching students. So I do want to continue that. But I'm certainly not opposed to spending some time in the States. I spent the whole summer there and I loved it.
Right.
It's a much different environment.
Yes, it is a much different environment.
It's interesting to look at that culture and see how it's slowly turning into Canada. And they don't see the signs yet. You can just tell by some of the interactions I've had with young people and some of the municipal decisions. Like they're doing all the things that it took Canada to get to where we're at.
An inch at a time, right?
And it was weird going down there, and I was warning people because they are shocked. People from the South are shocked when they hear about what's happening. But it's interesting when you go up to somebody a little more north in the States, they all they aren't surprised by it. So it's certainly a big difference in the culture there. But it's going to be a fight to preserve that. Yes.
Well, they have the First Amendment, which we don't have, which is a free speech amendment. And, they have the Free Speech Amendment. So they're safe in some ways, but depends what they respond to. So I was reading the code for the Ontario Human Rights Commission about washrooms. The code allows for restriction of services or facilities to persons of the same sex for reasons for public decency. So that's how it was written in the beginning. I think it was in the 90s, something around 1994, where they started changing the codes. So they've been changing the codes, and this is only in the last 30 years. They've changed the codes, so now in one sentence they say same sex, but in the updated one they talk about gender identity. So they've taken gender identity and put it in the same sentence, really in the same phrase as same sex for this code. So they're saying that gender and sex are exactly the same, and we know that that's not true. Mm-hmm. You know, sex is biology and gender is an opinion.
Yeah, it's weird how that term has developed so much over time, mm-hmm. because I don't think, like, in past, had somebody said gender or sex, it probably would have been considered the same thing. But now it's been politicized so much that you have to be really careful with your words. And because it changes the meaning so much, because people they're so particular about it. And it's to a point where they're dishonest about everything else, but they'll zero in on those little terms and try to, it's just a silly game.
Yeah, well, it's a point, and from that point, then they can bring everything else that they want to fit into that new narrative, right? New narrative based on, not on the Bible.
Yeah.
It's not based on scripture. You live by yourself, so you're not living with your parents. You're not supposed to be living with your parents or having their guidance.
I'm allowed to, like, me living with my parents isn't an issue.
No.
The withdrawal is really just a legal thing, where they no longer have, like, input from the school on my education and all that. I handle all that. It doesn't actually restrict where I live. It just takes away some of the parents' rights to adjust my education. But other than that, it really doesn't change my lifestyle. I've been constantly on the road and traveling, so I'm never home. But I still do have a place with my family. I'm very close with them.
And you go to court in Toronto?
No, I'll be
in Ottawa.
I believe I'll have like 5 or more court dates in Calgary. For an incident that happened there.
Oh, I see.
I got swarmed by a crowd of maybe 40, 50 counter-protesters, and they were choking me and punching me and trying to set me on fire at one point. I
just read something happened in Calgary. It didn't say what it was. So were you at a school?
I was outside the Western Canada High School. And
they came, and these counter-protesters came.
Yeah, BLM and Antifa showed up. I don't know why BLM was counter-protesting me. I guess it's literally because I'm white, but they showed up and they're violent, to say the least. They were burning our Bibles. They were trying to set me on fire. I got several punches. Even one of the ladies, Taylor McNally, put her hands in the back of my pants. It was messed up. But it was an interesting day because they did all that.
How do you deal with all of that? Does it haunt you?
No, I wouldn't say it haunts me, because there's a kind of peace that comes with knowing you're in the right. And especially as a Christian. How do
you know you're in the right?
Well, I believe morality is based on the greater good, which is God. And that's what all my values align with the Word of God, and
So when you're in the moment, and things are happening, how do you keep your head?
I've never really had an issue with a temper.
Okay. Pretty emotionally stable.
Yeah, I guess so. But there's an unnatural peace that comes with those kind of events. I shouldn't be okay with getting punched in the face, but it's almost like, when you're in there's adrenaline, but there's, like I said, an unnatural peace that comes from nothing else other than God.
Right.
Where you can get punched in the face and be okay with it.
So how do you maintain that through that time? How do you maintain that faith?
I don't know. I can't explain it. I wish it was something that I could explain and articulate better, but it just happens. You're there. You accept your reality. you know you're doing right. You also have to understand that you're setting an example for all the students that are out there watching.
Right.
They're not going to respect a kid that can't hold his ground responsibly and respectfully. I wouldn't
call you a kid, I don't think, at this point. I think that I think you're legally a man, aren't you?
I guess so.
17?
I guess so.
Yeah, you're a man.
So, I mean, they aren't going to be able to respect or follow somebody that can't keep a level head. So it's all the more powerful when you do have that self-control. And it was a perfect example of it was in Calgary, because I get attacked. All the students are watching this. They're all worried. They're stressed out because I'm being swarmed, and there's a gate separating me from all the students. I'm just on the other side of the gate getting thrown around. And the police run in and they arrest me. And they take me off to a paddy wagon. And as I'm going to the paddy wagon, I was still talking to students on the other side of the gate. And I'm like, guys, we got Bibles over there. I'll try to get back here as soon as possible. Just like keep it peaceful. And I kind of gave a few students the gospel actually as I was walking. And anyways, I get thrown in the paddy wagon, and there's still students outside the paddy wagon, which I'm talking to while the police are trying to interrogate me and read me my rights and everything. And I just kept talking to them. And then finally, I acknowledged the police, and I'm like, okay, well, why have I been arrested? And they told me it was for being involved in the conflict and breaching the peace and all sorts of stuff, which is odd considering I had my hands in the air while getting punched in the face. But anyways.
Well, I bet they don't know what to do with you. Huh?
Yeah. What happened is they started interrogating me about which scripture I was reading.
Oh, really?
Because they wanted to know whether it violated a conflict bylaw against the alphabet community.
Yeah.
So I told them, whatever the most offensive verse is, I said, I may have used that. And I said, whatever verse you didn't want me to use, put it down, because I use the whole thing and I don't discriminate. I said, I've given out the entire Bible to the kids over there, so you'll be able to find whatever verse you don't like in there.
Right.
And so anyways, they told me you aren't allowed to return. No matter what, if you cross back into that area, you will be arrested. Even if it's you that gets assaulted, no matter what, you cross there, you'll get arrested. And they tell my lawyer this, and it was really funny because they're on the phone with my lawyer, and they tell him, okay, as long as Josh doesn't return and he just goes home, we won't have to talk again. There'll be no more issues. And my lawyer says, okay, talk soon, and hangs up. So I gathered a bunch of the guys I was there with, which was Nathaniel Pulowski, who's Artur Pulowski's son, the pastor that was being persecuted. We gathered a bunch of Bibles. I said, okay, they've told me I'll be arrested if I go back. The students are watching. They've actually left their school and are facing discipline for coming out to support me. I'm not just going to leave now. I've done nothing wrong. If you're going to arrest me for being the victim of assault, go ahead. It's not going to hold up in court, right? So I walked back, and just before I crossed, they had this, there was a street that I was told I wasn't allowed to cross. And as I was waiting for the light to change so I could cross it, the counter-protesters and all the students crossed over and met me there. So I hadn't violated their rules, so they couldn't arrest me again. And I stayed there for hours talking to the students. And you could tell their attitude really changed, even the ones that were there to counter-protest me, because they had a level of admiration.
Because they came to you.
Yeah, because
that was good.
And
that just spontaneously happened.
Yeah, it spontaneously happened. But what would have happened had I lost my cool and just been irresponsible about it?
Or run away.
Yeah. And it showed them, it also shows the importance of my message that I'll go to that extent to give it.
Yeah.
So I was actually able to have a lot of conversation with kids who were previously flipping me off and screaming at me.
I see.
And now now they're interested and they want to hear what I have to say.
Oh, wow.
And it brought even more kids out when they see, whoa, wait, that's the kid we just saw get thrown in the paddy wagon. What's he doing back? So it's certainly.
When was that?
This was in May, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, it was May 17th, actually.
So what's happened since then?
Since then, not a whole lot. Like I said, I'll have to go back for court.
You were gone for the summer?
Yeah, I left for the summer. I was hanging out with John Lovell from the Warrior Poets Society.
From the what?
Warrior Poet Society.
Oh yeah, I don't know that.
It's a fairly big YouTube channel.
Okay.
And now they have their own network. He's a public speaker.
I'll have to look it up.
All sorts of stuff. He's a guy that I really admire. He was a big role model of mine when I was little. And then one day I was scrolling on Twitter and I saw him tweeting about me. It's like, oh, that's cool. Anyways, we got in contact and I got to go and spend quite some time with him.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so I spent a lot of time in the summer. Now, after, I guess the biggest event after the May 17th one where I was just describing that arrest was the June 9th event, which was with Billboard Chris again, and that one was in Ottawa. And it was a real turning point, I believe, in the whole resistance and the parental rights movement, because that brought out so many different communities. And it was the first time I led a protest where my crowd outnumbered those who came to counter protest me.
And how did you advertise it?
We just we put it out on Twitter, I believe, and Instagram and
what
social media. It was the Education Over Indoctrination rally.
Okay.
And we did that. And we announced it about 2 months beforehand, which is something I rarely do. But it got a lot of attention all across the country.
Too?
Yeah.
Students' parents?
Yeah, a lot of students came out. I mean, I got letters from the school telling me not to show up to that street, which was ridiculous, so I did. And they
just tell you what to do.
Yeah, not even my
here,
school.
Oh, there, huh?
I'm getting called to the office of schools that aren't even mine. But I had the schools were all put on lockdown apparently because we were outside, which was ridiculous. But anyway, students still managed to find their way onto the street, and it was a really good event, and it got attention internationally. And
what
I
part
believe
of Ottawa were you in?
We were in it was Broadview and Carling in Nepean. And there was 3 high schools on that road, so we got to talk to so many students that day, and there was points where there was a little bit of physicality with the counter-protest trying to obstruct our passage.
When was that? Antifa?
Yeah, it was mainly Antifa.
Is that who comes out pretty much every time?
Yeah, they claim to be Antifa.
Are they Canadian?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah?
You see them all, like, I'll go to Peterborough and they'll be there. I'll go to Toronto, the same faces, Ottawa, everywhere.
Yeah, it's the same faces, yeah.
But they're clearly funded. But
do you know how they're funded?
I have my own ideas. Nothing I can put out there honestly. But I mean, it's no coincidence that they're able to show up.
Right.
No matter I show up, I'll put out an event like one day in advance, and they'll be there, and they'll travel all across the province to get there. So it's a little bit ridiculous, but they're agitators, and that's their goal, and I suppose they do a pretty good job at it.
I suppose. Yeah. Well, I was at McMaster University with Jordan when the students, they had those bullhorns, and they were right beside him, yelling at him. And he ended up having to go outside to give the talk. And even then there were people holding big signs, and there was an Indigenous crowd, and then all of the counter people all around, and he just stood on a picnic table and gave a talk. That was really before he stopped going to universities. He just stopped going to universities at that point. So we haven't been to very many universities since. I think he went to Queen's once after that, but he had a protester in his face yelling at him all after the talk, all the way to the car. And he said he was with my son. I didn't go. I knew it would happen. I just decided not to go. And he said it took everything in him to just walk and not say anything, not respond. And all they wanted was him to respond. That's all they want, is for you to do something wrong.
Yeah, that all they want is that agitated response. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially the students, they're the worst. They'll shine lasers in your eyes, bullhorns in your ear.
Yeah,
they got noisemakers.
Terrible.
Sometimes pepper spray and stuff.
It's not good for you.
And then obviously sometimes knives and clubs and stuff. So
yeah.
It's part of life now.
It's part of life. It looks like it. Yeah. Well, Huh. What do you think of this, that this is where your life is at now? What do you think of it?
Nothing surprises me anymore. I'm used to it. It's obviously like there's places I'd rather be than in a crowd getting punched in the face, but at the same time, like I said, it's very important, and it's an issue that needs to be addressed, and I don't know of any other young person that will do it.
No, I don't know anybody else who's doing it.
And like I feel an obligation to do it, especially looking at the state of masculinity and traditional femininity in our culture. Men have none of them want to protect or provide. And when I have a few teenage girls come to me out of concern for their own safety and their own privacy and make a complaint, I have an obligation to say something. I have an obligation to stand up. And I feel like that obligation isn't over, and I still need to do something. I mean, I'm not in the school, so I can't stop anything from happening there, but I can do as much as I can to influence the system from outside. And I mean, I think it's working. We're starting to see politicians start to speak up against it and vocalize their support for parental rights. It's certainly a slow process, embarrassingly slow, but it is working.
So do you need any help in this in any way? Are you still looking for help, or are you good where you are? Or?
Well, we're constantly, networking and trying to. I mean, we have all of our legal bills, and then all this other stuff that's going on. And I mean, it's not. It's certainly a learning process for me, because I started at 16. I'm now 17, and I'm trying to figure out all this, like how to be able to continue our mission and. Like worry about the finances and then all the legal end of it and the like all the marketing and all that. It's a complicated process, but I mean, so far we've survived. I mean, it's not always as clean cut as we'd want. The budget's slim, but we're working with what we got, and it's working so far.
Oh, that's really good. Well, I don't know if I have anything more to say. Do you have anything more to say?
I mean, I guess I'd just close with a message to all the young people, which is the same message we give across the country. And it's about restoring tradition and truth to a culture that embraces depravity and degeneracy. And as I always say, we need to pick which side we're on, and as a born-again Christian, I know that the side I'm on has already won, and I know that nothing that can harm me in this world will affect my eternal status, and so I have a sense of security in that, and I'm able to go on without shame and be able to fight for what is right and what is true and what is honorable. And like your husband said, if you want the best adventure of your life, always tell the truth. So that's what I would encourage people to do.
Well, what you're doing is something you never expected to do. It's it's an adventure.
Yeah, absolutely.
What we're doing, we had no intention of doing. Yeah. It's an adventure. That's the best it can get, really. Yeah. Doesn't matter what it is. It might be hard. Doesn't mean it's easy. But it's interesting.
Yeah, at the same time, I couldn't imagine continuing to go to school and just live a normal life inside such a broken and corrupt system.
Right.
I mean, I want to live. I want to feel alive, even if that includes the pain or the suffering that comes with that. I don't care. And
were you learning anything in high school when you were there?
Not really. Nothing that you can't learn in 10 minutes. Like if you wanted to take your week's learning from high school, you could probably figure out in 10 minutes on Google.
Right.
Like you're learning nothing. And
why do you think that is? Are they messing up all of the subjects with
I believe they want to dumb down the system.
Signaling? Yeah.
They want to have kids that are taught what to think and not how to think.
Right.
They want slaves to the broken system.
Yeah.
They don't want free thinkers. They're teaching people how to be workers and how to, mold yourself into this puppet for corruption. There's nothing about starting your own business or filing your taxes or just real life issues that young people should figure out.
Cooking your food,
none of that.
Typing. We took all kinds of things.
You'd be amazed.
Woodwork.
Yeah, you'd be amazed for a generation like mine that's so technically advanced. How few of them know how to type. Kids from my class, they couldn't type, which is ridiculous.
I know, typing like this.
Yeah, they use their index fingers.
Yeah. We had typing in high school. I think we had to have typing in high school, and that was in the 70s.
I think the most shocking one is that logic has been removed from schools, and that shows.
Wow, philosophy of logic.
Yeah, logic.
Removed.
That was something. I was homeschooled till grade 7, and I would be doing logic every single year as one of my courses. And then I went into school, and I was like, "Where's the logic course?" And it's very evident that it's lacking. And I think that's intentional.
And little kids, I don't know. Little girls, I remember when I was a little girl, we skipped after school. We skipped, or even at recess, and we played these games. Girls play these games, and they don't play them anymore, They're on their phones.
Yeah.
And so those growing up games of balance and socializing, give and take, and all of those cooperation, all of that, none of that. Kids aren't doing any of that. I don't know what's missing. Are the boys not going out and roughhousing in the playground?
I think the whole COVID issue was one of the worst things that could have happened to our generation. It was already dead. Our generation, it was just so numb to real life and to any action. And then they made it illegal to go play football with your buddies. I remember being in cop chases, the cops chasing us through my little town of 1,000 because we dared to go and throw a football with each other at the park.
Wow.
And if you're not careful, you begin to just have a rebellious attitude towards society in general, which can become a problem quick. And that's what you see with kids either become just video game addicted.
Or shoplifting in the States. I've seen kids going into stores and stealing and running out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because there's no respect for, when you take away the common decency and anything normal from society, you can't expect that society to be respected.
Right.
So if we're punished for doing what is normal and what is right and what kids had always done for all of history, then why would they even care about what punishment they receive for doing what's wrong?
Wow, yeah.
You're going to be punished either way. So, I mean, you either get the kids, like you said, that just really don't care and start shoplifting and just become total rebels towards society, or you just get the kids that are addicted to video games, pornography, and social media.
And drugs now, too.
And drugs.
Because, oh my goodness, when I drove here, I drive by a small church on College and Augusta, I think it is, by Kensington Market. And I drove by there probably 2 months ago, and there are a couple of tents outside the front of the church. Now there's 6 tents outside the front of the church, and that will grow until eventually it's too big, and then I imagine it'll be disbanded. But the people who are living in tents and not finding what is worthwhile inside them, and not finding a purpose in life, and going forward trying to do service in the name of what's right, is just gone.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we've removed the truth from our lives, which then we've also deleted honor, and it's apparent. I mean, when you build your life on falsehood, nothing good's going to come from that.
Right.
And this is what the consequence is. My generation is broken and lost.
Well, and the old people are terrified. I have a woman who lives across from me. She's a retired teacher. She has a BLM sign in front of her house that's been there for about 10 years. Poor thing. And she worries because when my driver comes and parks in front of the house, she's worried that he sits in front of the house. And so she went up to him and told him that he shouldn't be sitting in front of the house with the car on. The car is a hybrid car. So when you stop it stops, actually, whether it's running or not, it stops. But she was unaware of that. And she stands at her front door to see whether how long the car has sat there or not. So she's just spending all her time doing like completely useless. She's not spending time doing anything good. Just worry and fret.
Yeah. And yeah, we were able to, well, not we, but our government was able to convince people to literally be afraid of the air.
Yeah. Yeah. And now people are.
It's just created a paranoia and division and discourse, and it's not healthy.
Yeah, that's for sure. So we'll work to turn that around.
Exactly.
Okay.
Save Canada.
Sounds good. Save Canada. Save the world. Save each other.
Yeah.
Save ourselves. All of it.
The only way to do that is through Christ. I mean, once our nation gets on its knees and repents, then we'll be able to, like, I mean, that's the only place where true salvation is found.
Yeah, that's true. I went to church when I was a little kid. My parents didn't. My grandmothers sung in the choir and played the organ in the church, and so there was some religion there for sure. But my parents, they were busy working. They didn't go to church. I went with my siblings, but they were way older than me. So by the time I was 12, they had left town, and I stopped going to church. There was some disagreement at the church with my sister, and I stopped going. And I started doing yoga, and I started meditating, and I did that, practiced it every day. And I've been questioning my years in yoga and what they were good for. They were good because they strengthened my body, right? We were talking about strengthening body. That's a good thing. They allowed me to meditate and sit and listen, and that was good. So when I did finally turn to Scripture, it was easy for me to start a prayer practice. I was ready for, and it took me, I must have been a very rebellious person because it took me like 40 years to come back to Scripture. But I did. Mm-hmm. And my life has been so much better ever since. I have mixed feelings about the years that I spent doing that, but I know that God had a plan for me, and that was the plan, so I have to make sense of it somehow.
Yeah.
And then just take the next right step, which is, I think, what we're doing, taking the next right step. Indeed. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
God bless you.
God bless you.